Hello everyone, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Virginia Rubaine, the Director of Community Mental Health Services here in the Territory, recently attended the 68th Annual Health Research Conference and World Psychiatric Association Conference in Iceland. She was, of course, a key presenter, and she's here to recap this phenomenal event and why she was a part of it. And in addition, of course, we're touching base on the Be Mindful campaign, a brief history.
That's just not cricket.
No sweat, you're with CG. Remember my street dance battle against Seamus O'Leapsy? I went on to win the title Miss Irish-ish, set to perform at nursing homes around the world. Then this happened. Seamus on you, Seamus. Anyway, I was covered. Let's bounce.
Comprehensive motor cover for damage and more. CG Insurance. Good like that.
Some claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman by yours truly, Ron Grant, presents Season 6. Introducing Sheldon Frett, actor, film producer, writer. Daylon Vantapool, entrepreneur. Terrence Neal, creative director. Chad George, entrepreneur. Humphrey Liu, financial services professional. Jamali DJ Molly Thomas, sales manager. Kai DeCastro, entrepreneur. Dean the Sportsman Greenaway, journalist. St. Clair Steady Fleming, entrepreneur. Devon Cowell, brand specialist. Robert Green, footballer. And Rick S.S. Grant, author. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, coming June 5th, exclusively on 284 Media, inspiring a generation of greatness. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. As promised, today I'm joined by the lovely Dr. Virginia Rubaine, who is the Director of Community Mental Health Services. Dr. Rubaine, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you so much for having me, Ron.
You're most welcome.
Being here.
Absolutely. We have quite a bit going on the scene of community mental health in the Virgin Islands. You just recently returned from Iceland, and you were a speaker at the 68th Annual World Health Research Conference and, of course, the World Psychiatric Association. I personally think that this is quite phenomenal when we look at the territory being just that, a territory, a small dot on the map, but we have representation on the international scene when it comes to the mental health aspect and making sure that we're on par with the procedures and what's happening on the global scene. I want you to start there, recap this phenomenal event, and how did the invitation even come about?
So Iceland was pretty exciting, and how we got invited to the World Psychiatric Association's Convention on Stigma and Discrimination is through our Mindful campaign. So the data that we collected from the Mindful campaign was submitted to them to say, hey, here's what we're doing in the Virgin Islands. And they thought it was quite remarkable. And they invited the Virgin Islands to be a part of their plenary. And so I had the opportunity not just to address the countries in the room, but countries around the world, talking about our campaign and the efforts that we make to abolish stigma and discrimination in the territory.
Understood. And what was that experience like for you?
You know, I was in denial until I got on the stage. And when I realized that I was sitting with Australia, Austria, the UK, and Ireland, Australia in particular, they have been powerhouses in terms of campaigns for stigma and discrimination. And I looked around and I said, tiny Virgin Islands is on the stage with, you know, these world-renowned countries when it comes. And so I was really overwhelmed by the opportunity and by the recognition. We are tiny, but we are mighty.
Indeed.
And so pound for pound, we could go up with the biggest countries who have way more resources than us and present comparable, if not better, data. So I was very, very pleased with that.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on being able to represent the territory, and I know you did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
I want to go in depth a little bit for persons who may not be aware. CARPHA, explain to us what that means and what the agency really represents.
Okay, so we presented at 2 conferences this year. So one of my teams went to St. Lucia to the 68th annual CARPHA conference. CARPHA is a Caribbean public health research agency that is really tasked with gathering data about all the Caribbean countries as it relates to non-communicable and communicable diseases. And so it was an honor to submit an abstract to them and have them say, hey, we like what the Virgin Islands is doing. Come and present this to the rest of the Caribbean. And that was particularly fruitful because you had all the Caribbean countries in one setting and everybody was interested in our campaign. And when we got the red light to go ahead with our pilot campaign, one of the things that I said to our the people who were training us in the campaign was that I wanted to take this to the rest of the Eastern Caribbean.
Beautiful.
Because they may not have access to the Mindful, because we had access to the Mindful campaign in the UK, and I think it's something that's beneficial. I think we need to come to the 21st century with our attitudes and our behaviors as it relates to mental health and how we treat people with mental health challenges. Yeah. So I wanted to be sexy all over the Caribbean, to be mentally well.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was very exciting, and the powers that be are interested in hosting CARPHA in the BVI next year. So if they do come here, it's going to be an exciting opportunity because we'll have all of these countries on the ground who we can present our campaign to. We also presented at the OECS last October when they were here, the ministerial meeting. And as I said, a lot of countries are interested in what we're doing with our limited resources and understanding why it works.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And speaking of the campaign, I want to touch on a brief history of the campaign for persons who may not be aware. Tell us about the Anti-Stigma, Be Mindful campaign.
So in 2020, Public Health England came and did an assessment of our services. And out of that assessment, they spoke with persons with lived experience as well as my team. And what came out of that is that we needed to address stigma and discrimination in the community. And so what they did is they provided the initial funding from Mind UK to come in and train my team and myself on how to run an anti-stigma campaign. And so between 2020 and 2022, when we officially launched at the Governor's House, we recruited and trained champions. We partnered with Unite BVI and Harneys for funding. We developed a scholarship fund. I mean, we did a ton load of things. And so we began the campaign, and in 2023, we launched the social media aspect of the campaign. And that is when it really took off because people enjoyed interfacing with the information that we were sharing on our social media platforms. They particularly engaged with the stories from our champions. And so we were like, oh gosh, we're really on to something here. And out of that social media campaign, we were able to gather the data that we submitted to these organizations to say, listen, we did this, it worked, this is what the numbers say, and we're really proud of what we did. So currently, we are in the second phase of the campaign. We are working right now with Unite BVI to refund the campaign, and we intend to take it even bigger. So last year we had our mindfulness mural campaign amongst the schools. That was so exciting. So this summer the winning schools are going to have their renovations for their mindful rooms. And this year for World Mental Health Day, we're having a photo video competition that I'm very, very excited about. So there's a lot of things coming up. Seminars at the college, artistic evenings where the community gets to interface with our champions. So we have a lot of things coming up, and it's just very exciting. But I just recently had a meeting with my team, and it dawned on us that we have done such a good job in decreasing stigma and discrimination that we recognize that our clients are not as socially isolated as they used to be.
Beautiful.
And so now we have a paradigm shift in how we engage our clients and provide activities to them, because the community is embracing them and they feel like active members, so they don't have to rely on us as much for that social engagement. So that was like mind-boggling and like exciting for me.
Well, I love it, and I want to take this opportunity, though, to really pay homage to your champions who really took the campaign on and shared some of their very personal stories that would have allowed persons throughout the territory to understand that mental health doesn't have a look, doesn't have a face, and we should begin to embrace living and being our best selves, and of course working through the various obstacles. So kudos to you, and of course kudos to the champions.
I'm glad you said that it doesn't have a look. Men, it doesn't have a gender either.
I'm happy that you
And
say that. Yeah.
Yes, I would love some male champions. So if anybody wants to volunteer to be a male champion, we'd be happy to train you and have you become a part of our team, because
Wonderful.
we need that representation.
Absolutely. Now, I just want to touch briefly before we go. Two things. Why was it so important for us in the territory to be represented at both of these annual events, and what was the takeaway from some of our receiving countries?
So it was very important because there's very little data coming out of the Caribbean for the small island countries and territories. So typically when you're doing research, you hear a lot about Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, but in terms of the smaller territories, there's not a lot of data. Data is important when you're engaging in policy planning and funding, when you're trying to create budgets. And if you don't know what the numbers are in your community for anything, like if we don't know how many diabetics
Yes.
that we have in the community, how do we plan programs for persons who suffer from diabetes? Well, the same thing applies. I think it was wonderful for other countries to be aware that things are happening in other smaller territories and that we could share resources. I met a doctor from America who has a very successful social media campaign as it relates to addiction,
Okay.
and she wants to share her resources with us. So that kind of networking opens doors for us, and it allows us to tap into resources that we wouldn't otherwise have had access to. And now everybody knows about Nature's Little Secret, and that we mighty and we strong.
Beautiful.
So I'm happy about that.
Love it, love it. For the persons who want to get in contact with the Community Mental Health Services Unit, because you guys offer a number of services,
Yes.
how can they do so?
So they can call 852-7500 and ask for our office, or they can call us directly at 852-7675 and just let us know what their needs are.
Wonderful. Dr. Rubaine, thank you so much for stopping by. Congratulations on not only the success of the campaign, but of course the representation of the Virgin Islands on the global scene. You guys keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you
most
for
welcome.
acknowledging us. I appreciate that.
You're most welcome. Viewers, that's all the time we have. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye-bye.